We gather here today to pay tribute, to give thanks, and to celebrate the life of a man who occupied many spaces in our lives, in this nation, and in the world. For many of us, our beloved leader. For others, our brother. For so many, our friend. A grandfather to my 5 children. A husband of 64 years to my mother. And to me, my father, Reverend Yusef Jackson, Sr. That was part of his beauty. My mother would often say, wow, your father has such remarkable range that in one moment he can be way up here, and the next moment he comes right down to eye level. His body of work spans more than 6 decades, so vast that no single homegoing service can fully capture it, but it's both an honor and a heavy responsibility to try. As I grieve and wrestle with my faith in the loss, in the wake of this loss, the scripture that says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning, sits heavily in my belly. I find myself balancing the sorrow of the dark night, comforting my kids and answering their questions about the loss of life and the cycle of life, and managing my own personal grief against God's promise that joy comes in the morning. And what a morning God gave my father. 84 years. He would often say, Yusef, that Martin died at age 39. He was taken from us far too soon. He said Malcolm died at 39. He never thought he would live this long. A life so full of work and witness, a life and legacy we honor publicly and proudly. His record standing firmly on the side of justice. It will stand the test of time. The Reverend always taught me that we should measure someone not simply by where they ended up, but where they started from. He was born out of wedlock, deep in the valley of the Jim Crow South under the heavy boot of Southern apartheid. As a boy, teased for having 3 last names, and he struggled with the stutter. Yet he rose from those beginnings to become extraordinary, to become a blessing to the world. And he always knew what set him on the right path. A loving mother, a family, a welcoming church, a close-knit community that helped guide a young boy of immense energy, intelligence, and ambition. My father was what Dr. King called maladjusted to injustice. He simply never accepted it. He went to jail at 17 years old in Greenville, South Carolina, protesting for the right to use a public library. And even near the end of his life, he never spoke to me about his existential struggle with life, his inability to express himself clearly, the loss of his gifts, his inability to walk and move. Instead, he urged me to organize churches and pastors to help feed millions of people who are affected by food insecurity as a result of the loss of SNAP benefits. He carried a well-read Bible, not as a symbol, but as a guide. He lived a revolutionary Christian faith rooted in justice, nonviolence, and the moral righteousness of standing with the least of these. He practiced that faith sometimes on his knees, but more often on his feet, on picket lines in jails, at makeshift hospitals and parks in New York City, comforting AIDS patients, and in communities across the country. He often said, I intend to die with my shoes on. And he taught us that if you're faithful over a few things, God will make you ruler over. And he taught us that with faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move mountains, win peace, free hostages, give hope to the masses. So we remember him not for what he accumulated, but for what he gave. He used his gifts to give voice to the voiceless, free prisoners, and build the Rainbow Coalition, bringing together the rejected stones of society, instilling hope in them and reminding them that as God's children, they are somebody special. He was deeply involved in the political struggles of his time, but his gift was that he could rise above them. It's not about the left wing or the right wing. It takes two wings to fly. For him, the goal was always the moral center. His campaigns called America to move from racial battlegrounds to economic common ground and on to moral high ground. And that vision allowed him to transcend the limitations of his circumstances. He endured insults and dismissals, rejection, yet he kept appealing to our better angels and urged us to keep on keeping on. Even as his body began to fail, his spirit and imagination never did. He talked about organizing a peace mission to Ukraine. He wanted to appeal directly to Putin. He wanted to organize the ministers to help negotiate peace in Haiti. The Reverend's mind and will was strong even as his body failed him. He was very clear about the challenges we face today. He believed the progress made during what historians call the Second Reconstruction, the era that grew out of the civil rights movement and expanded democracy for millions, was now facing renewed resistance from the highest levels of our government. The foolish denial of threats to democracy and to decency, corrosive inequality, catastrophic climate change, endless wars, a renewed arms race, global pandemics, and more. And he reminded us that in each of these crises, it is always the least of these who suffer first and suffer the most. And that conviction shaped his ministry. In his final months, he spent a lot of time with his grandchildren, private time. No moms and dads allowed. He loved it, and they loved it. And after he passed, I asked each of my children, Sky, Yusef, Cassius, Atticus, and Matthias, what was their last conversation with their grandfather? I asked, what did he say to you? Each of them, separately and individually, thought for a moment and told me, Dad, Granddad told me he loved me. And those are the last words I remember him ever saying to me as well. Wherever he traveled, he made time for children, at schools, at churches, at hospitals, even in prisons. He believed that inside every child was a somebody waiting to emerge, and that with faith and support and hope, they can achieve excellence. He would say, I know because I was one of them. And today his legacy will not be carried forward by family alone. This type of work does not pass by blood, it passes by spirit. Thus it is in his name that we have committed ourselves that the Rainbow Coalition will continue. We have recommitted ourselves to its founding principles, reached out to engage new leaders across the country, and restructured and revived its operations. And we'll put the good Reverend, my father, to rest today. And we'll honor him by building upon his work and taking up the challenge. And so while he would be delighted to witness this gathering of friends and allies, and sorry to not be here to conduct it personally, he would be intent that we stay the course and carry on the struggle for justice. I thank you all for being a part, not just of his work over the years, but to the shared commitment of our future together. Keep hope alive.